Morning, ladies and gents. Alrighty. So, taking up homework for the last 5 questions for our Pythagorean theorem unit, getting ready for the test tomorrow on Friday. The first thing that we were doing was question 6, and it probably left a lot of you cold at first. I know I spoke to several students yesterday on the phone, trying to walk them through where to go with this one. So I put up a grid background. I know it's a little bit visually confusing. It's just made the drawing it at the end a little bit easier. So what they told us was that the treasure was square root 13 units away from the point marked X. I know X usually marks a spot. In this case, they thought they would screw with the pirates, or the pirates thought they would screw with the laymen, and they would put it 13 units away, square root 13 units away from X. So how do we use that to our advantage, or how do we figure it out? Well, Pythagorean theorem. We know that if we take a squared and b squared and add them together, it will give us c squared. So if we think of c as being square root 13, that means that 13's already been squared when it's under this symbol. So we have to choose perfect squares that add up to 13. And that's why I did this up here. So I wrote out the perfect squares for the first few numbers. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16. And I said to myself, which two do I add together to give me 13? Well, 4 plus 9 is 13. So that's what I put into here. So 2 squared plus 3 squared, which gives me 4 plus 9, which we square root 13. So then we go to ye old treasure map, the spot marked X, and ye walk 2 paces south and 3 paces east, and that be square root 13 paces from the spot marked X. And ye treasure be here, or so ye thought, because you could also walk 3 paces west, 2 paces north, and dig, and ye treasure could be here. Yar! But it may not be, because you could walk any combination of 2 and 3, north, south, east, and west for any of them. Yar! So there still be many places where ye old treasure map could lead you to be with ye treasure. R. That's why with part B, there be more than one location for the treasure. Yar. Fare thee warned, be thee, says I. Okay, enough of that. Number 7. You get a boat. 2 boats, actually. Here's the marina, marked in a lovely orange dot. I know, you're in awe of my artistic abilities. I scare myself sometimes. So, one boat is going a paltry 10 kilometers an hour for 2 hours north, which means it travels 20 kilometers. The other boat's traveling at a blistering 12 kilometers an hour for 2 hours. So that gets it 24 kilometers east. And then you want to know how far apart they are? Well, there's your right angle triangle. So we need to figure out how long side C is. So A is 20 kilometers. B is 24 kilometers. Square them. Add them, we get 976. Take the square root of 976, and that gives us 31.2 kilometers for C. So that's how far apart the boats are. Number 8 gave us this diagram, and they said they wanted the perimeter, which means we need to add up the distance of the 3 sides. But they didn't give us this one or this one. So I looked at it and I said, hey, I got a right angle triangle here. I know this is 12. I know that's 15. So with this right angle triangle, this is going to be, I marked it as A, that'll be B, and this will be C. For this triangle, I didn't know this one. So I said, okay, well, that's A, that's B, because they're the short sides. This is the long side, that's going to be C. So then you just have to do Pythagorean theorem twice to figure out those missing sides. So for this, that's A. All right, sorry, B, A was missing. And then C, so squared 12, squared 15. subtract 144 from both sides, so I get a by itself. So a squared is going to be 81, square root that, and side A is 9 centimeters long. Over here, A and B is 12 and 5. Square them, we get 144 and 25, add them. 169 is C squared, square root both sides, and we get C being 13. So perimeter of a triangle is side plus side plus side. Well, my first side's 15, so that's what I put there. My next side, we figured out this is 9 and that's 5. So I just added those together for that one. Okay, so that's our second side. Our third side we figured out is 13. When you add it all up, you get a perimeter of 42 centimeters. For number 9, they wanted an equilateral triangle with a side length of 15. So I drew myself an equilateral triangle. I put a side length of 15 on it, and then I put 3 little hash marks saying that yes, this is an equilateral triangle. Because they want the area, we know area formula for a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Well, I know the base is 15. I don't know the height. Okay, so we're going to use Pythagorean theorem to find the height. So I drew myself an imaginary dotted line going down there, marking the height. So now we're working with this little right angle triangle here. The base of it is 7.5 long because that's half of 15. The height I don't know. Side C is 15. So that's where the 7.5 came in for A, and C is 15. Square 7.5, square 15. Subtract 56.25 from both sides so that I get H on its own. Tells me H squared is 168.75. Square root that. And you can bring it to a decimal, but because I'm going to use this in another calculation down here, I'm leaving that under the square root symbol so that I get a more accurate answer. Okay, so base times height divided by 2. So the base is 15. The height of this triangle is square root 168.75. This should be more than one you should be doing this calculation first and then showing divide by 2. It's just as running out of room, so I did it all in one shot. And you get a rounded answer of 97.4 centimeters squared. Okay, last one, which is working with the hexagonal prisms or pentagonal prisms. In this case, instead of getting equilateral triangles, they told us we have isosceles triangles, and 5 of them because it's a pentagonal prism. Okay, and they want surface area of the whole prism. So surface area, well, I'm going to start by trying to get the area of the triangles. So again, I drew myself a line down, which represents the height. So A squared sitting right here is going to be half of this, so it's going to be 5. H squared is what we're looking for, and then C squared is 8.5. So again, square 5 and 8.5, and you get those answers. Subtract 25 from both sides, so you get H on its own. H squared is 47.25, and H is going to be square root 47.25. And again, you see that I'm leaving this answer underneath the square root symbol so that I'm not having to round, because we're going to use it in another calculation right over here for height of the triangle. And I don't want to round here because that's going to make my answer less accurate. So let me explain where I got this from. Okay. Question A asks you to draw out or sketch out your prism to help you remember all the sides that you have to take into consideration when you are trying to find the surface area. I didn't, but let me explain where I got this from. So base times height divided by 2 is area of a triangle. Okay. Now you see that I'm multiplying it by 10. Why? Well, they told us that it's a pentagonal prism, which means I have 5 of these triangles making up one end. But then on the other end of your prism, you have another 5 triangles up there. So each end is made up of 5 of these triangles. So that's why I have area of the triangle times 10. Okay. Then, if we think of the sides, they're rectangles. There's 5 of them. and area of a rectangle is length times width. So now we just go and fill in. Base of these triangles is 10. Height we calculated as 47.25 centimeters, and I'm leaving that under the square root symbol, and then divided by 2. Then for our rectangular sides, we're going to have 5 of them going around because it's a pentagonal prism, and rectangles are length times width. So the width is 10. They told us that the prism is 7 centimeters long, so that's where that is. 7 centimeters length, 10 centimeters width. And now we go do the math. 10 times square root 47.25 divided by 2 is 34.37. 5 times 7 times 10 is 350. Do this multiplication, we get 343.69. Add them together, and you get a surface area of 693.69 centimeters squared. For volume, again, from the sketch that you should have made yourself, you know that you have a pentagon made up of 5 triangles down there, okay? So for volume, you take the area of that base, which is that pentagon on the end, times the length of the entire prism. Now, in earlier lessons, I had this marked as height because, you know, if you think of the prism as sitting on that hexagon, or that in this case pentagon, the height is the height of the prism, but people were filling in this number, which is only the height of the triangle, but it's the entire length of the prism that you need here. So I switch it to length. So please watch out for that. Where I got, okay, and I need to take a step back. So base area. We have 5 triangles making up the area of that pentagonal base. So area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So this is the area of one triangle. So I did 10 times square root 47.25 divided by 2. And this is what it spit out, 34.37. I didn't show it just because I was running out of room, but that's exactly what I could have wrote here first. 5 times this. Okay. And then I multiplied it by 5 because this is area of one triangle, and we have 5 of them making up the base. Hopefully this is all making sense. And now we just multiply it out. So 5 times 34.37 is 171.85. That's the area of the pentagonal base times the length of the prism, and we get an answer of 1,202.95 centimeters cubed. And that's it. Okay, so no other new homework for today. Go practice something from each page so that you know everything from estimating square roots all the way through finding side A, finding side C using Pythagorean theorem, being able to work with hexagonal prisms, pentagonal prisms, finding their surface area and their volume and everything else like that. Okay, and obviously if you have questions, you can message me. I will get back to you. If you want instant help, Mathify is always there. It's up and running from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Okay? And reminder, your practice test is on the next page. You can always try some questions from there. Alrighty, so enjoy. Hopefully it doesn't rain all day for you. And I will talk to you soon. Bye for now. Yar.